And so, what did you learn by taking 2 years off of doing ayahuasca?
Well, one, I learned that it's a medicine that works really well with me. So over those 2 years, I recognized a lot of the patterns, not coming back, but just being there, like different kinds of anxieties or angst with just work itself or some of the more tedious aspects of what we do. Sort of outside of my ceremonial work, I'm involved in technology companies and we're building NFT platforms and different Web3 applications. And so it's, very detail oriented on computers and stuff like that. And so, that can produce different kinds of anxieties or frustrations. And so just being in the balance with ayahuasca and it as a medicine is just fundamentally great for me. So one was just that reaffirmation of what an incredible medicine it can be, what an really like miracle it is as a kind of plant medicine. And then also coming back showed me that over time, there is a natural maturation. Even being away from it, things actually improved and changed since I was in the last 2 years away from it. And so that was incredible. So I don't know. I mean, it's more centered, deeper in terms of my own personal experiences this last go around. And the teachings, again, were just so profound. And so, a lot of that is about kind of what we're doing with Blue Morpho and how we're approaching our work with ayahuasca so that other people can also have that depth of experience over a shorter period of time. Once I got involved, I mean, 2 years was the longest period of time we had ever been away from it. The longest time before that had just been a couple months when we were in training and we would get to a place where we just knew that, okay, it's like we're saturated, we've had enough, now we're going to go integrate this experience for a while. So it had never been, years and years and stuff like that away. That was just an advent from what happened with COVID and, sort of some circumstances associated with that. But it typically before we would have series of, a month or two when we're working with it, and then 3 weeks to a month off, and then a month or two that you're working really heavily with it. There are other groups that are just sort of much more steady. They would just sort of like 2 ceremonies a week, and kind of do that all year long. But we were always much more focused in it. So we would, have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 ceremonies in a row. On our retreat in 5 nights, we have 4 ceremonies. Before a retreat, I'm always doing ceremonies to prepare for the retreat. So, in those periods of time, over a very short number of nights, we'll have 8 to 10 ceremonies. And by the end of it, you start to feel it. You start to feel it in your body. It's in your cells. You can taste it. It's in your breath. It's really fully saturated through you. And so it's good to then take a little break and integrate that over a couple of weeks. And that's what we're doing now. Then we'll go back into the next part of our next training regime.
It kicks back in when I'm sleeping and I'm having these profound dreams, like I'm full blown back in the medicine.
Well, ayahuasca teaches you through the dream state and through that transitional state as you're going into sleep and coming out of the sleep. So a lot of people don't know it, but ayahuasca is a dream plant. And a lot of the training that we go through in the Amazon comes through the dream state. And so a lot of people think it's just the visionary state when you're under the influence of it, but it's not really like that. It's really more in the dream state. And so you use this grouping of ceremonies to then start that process that you're describing. And it really is a great time to be able to set intentions with it right before going to bed, because then in the dream state, your intentions will start to play themselves out. And there's all different kinds of, like you're saying, learning that goes on. And it's very applicable. Those are all different kinds of teachings that are coming from ayahuasca, and they all end up becoming skills. And so we think of that as the more skills that you have, the more seasoned you are in the space, the more you can do, the more you can help others, the more you can guide and direct yourself. And it's really when you combine a lot of those skills over an extended period of time of practice that then you're considered a practitioner now to be able to help others. And we learn a lot of that in the dream space. And so, as you're experiencing that, you don't forget them, right? I mean, the dreams it's not like I had a dream and you forget it. It's like, no, these are lucid teachings. You come out of the dream space kind of like, whoa, what was that dream? That's wild. then it integrates into you. And then you check out how those skills are working in your next set of ceremony. So, when we get an opportunity to be in ceremony again, then we'll start to work with all of those skills that you learned during the dream time, and we'll start to apply them in the ceremonies themselves.
And it was like everything I knew about reality got unlocked.
In ayahuasca, it's like, when we're in a normal space, we think that the space between us separates us. But when we get into ayahuasca, we start to see that the space between us is actually what's connecting us. And so the connection is like between you and me, all of that space, all of that air in that room is actually intertwined and connecting us all. And then our consciousness taps into it, right? Like we're like this big sender and receiver of frequency in the room itself. Now, in our normal daily life, we don't see it, but we know it's there because the radio waves are there, the light waves are there, the way the cell phone works and the internet is there. And those are all measurable expressions of energy. And people have done, measurements of energy in an ayahuasca ceremony, and there are shifts in the energy as the ceremonies continue and the people do different kinds of acts of energy work in the space. And so it is true that people have common shared vision. And that's one of the spaces that we're trying to create. And in this last retreat, I thought it was fundamentally amazing because of how deep everybody went into the experience and how calm everyone was able to get into that like really deep meditative calm and that massive interconnected space that you can also get through breath work or meditation. But then on top of it, now you add the ayahuasca and it's just like technicolor times a million. And it's, interconnection of energy and that field times a million in the way that we can experience it. And, the corroboration of that. So as the ayahuasca was teaching you, they were also experiencing that and learning that in their own way. So I just, it's just phenomenal. I think that that's key for ayahuasca. There's this idea of submitting, but I don't think that that's really right. I think it is an idea of surrender, and you don't give up your autonomy. You don't give up who you are. You don't give up your ego. You open it. You open it and you transcend the negative characteristics or qualities that might be holding you back. And then as we do that, one of the things that I'm doing in the ceremony is facilitating that connection. So we're harnessing the power of nature. So it's not just there and we're bystanders of it, just looking around. We're not just bird watching. We're actually getting into nature and drawing nature to us and learning how we're connected with it and really receiving it and opening our senses to being even more receptive to it. And then inside that great field of nature, there's all of this helping energy. So the helping plants, the doctor plants, the healing plants, the medicinal plants, the animals that are there that want to help us, and all the sounds that they make and their presence. And, as the visions turn on, then you get to see them in their visionary regalia, which is, even brighter than their feathers for like the macaws and the birds and the hummingbirds. It's even more iridescent, and the rainbows that come out of them and in these, sort of intradimensional fractals and everything is just, it's unbelievably beautiful, right? And then in that beauty, that opens us up and our heart opens up and our love opens up, our compassion opens up. And then, so we have that connection that's supporting us. Like, I really like that word you use, that nest, right? Because it's this contained space that we're in that's safe and protected, and we can let go and we can surrender and we can open up and we can trust the ayahuasca and we can trust nature. And then that allows us to open up all of our incredible capacities that typically are like held within, bound up within us. And we don't get to experience that in our typical normal daily life. Right. And so then we open that up, and then the chakras open up, and then Kundalini energy can flow. And then when that opens up, the heart can, blow wide open, even bigger than the body. And then that infinite love and connection with source becomes palpable. It's not just an idea where we know source is everywhere, but we're actually experiencing source everywhere. And source is in us and all around and interconnecting everybody. And that's just like the greatest way to be able to share knowledge and energy that's possible. Like, source is the field. So when we get into that source consciousness and then that field opens up for us, then all of that becomes possible. And so to hear that you had that experience is both phenomenal and, and incredible for everyone else to know that it's possible for them to have it too.
Now I'm like creating with that energy.
I love the idea of you creating, right? We were taught, like you said, like, I'm a being and I, petition spirit, or I petition God, or I petition source, or I have to pray to source, or I have to pray to God. And I like the idea of that being transcended to that idea that we are creator. We are creators. We are source. We are capable of making these changes ourselves, and actually having that direct communication and using that intention to be able to create and to be able to manifest things happening, not just ask for it to happen and like kind of law of attraction, try to bring it to us, but actually from us, from within, be able to put that intention into the world and then have the result be what we were asking for or guiding that intention to be. And so that's just really, incredible to hear that you were able to get that kind of awakening and experience through the ceremonies. That's fantastic.